So the National Department of Basic Education says that it's ready to welcome learners back to school next week. Inland schools are set to reopen on the 12th of January, while coastal schools will be back in class a week later, around the 19th of January. Last year, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic impacted learning and teaching with less time in the classroom. Let's get you a sense of what else we need to know. Basic Education Spokesperson is Mhlanga. He's with us now via our video link. And Elijah, it's always great to see you, sir. Thanks very much indeed for making time to chat to us. We'll speak about perhaps lessons learned as we enter this new academic calendar in just a moment. But first, how big an issue from your vantage point is this matter of school children still not being placed at this late stage?
Good morning, and compliments. Well, it's a big issue because under normal circumstances, every child must have a seat in a school and a space and have a certainty that on day one learning and teaching will take place. But we know that it's not reality because every year when schools open, there are still issues of admissions that need to be finalized, and that takes time because some parents had not finalized with the schools or with the department the admission issues that flow from the year before. But you also have a situation where lots of children migrate from some provinces to others in large numbers. I mean, if you look at Western Cape, they receive between 18,000 and 20,000 in general when schools opened, people who had not applied in any way whatsoever. In Gauteng is the same. And we are seeing the same trend happening in other provinces as well, especially in the city. So it's becoming a big, big issue. And it's something that we have alerted our provinces, districts and schools to deal with. So we hope that they will be able to resolve their matters so that we don't lose teaching time.
And, you know, in places like Gauteng, for instance, the application process for grades 1 and 8 is a centralized one. Are you finding that it's working? And I'm asking this on the back of real frustration from some parents who are, in some instances, struggling to reach officials to help them with their particular problems which could be solved, for instance, at the particular school.
Yeah, you know, to a large extent, the system is working. The problem comes when the department says schools are full and parents or guardians refuse to believe that schools are full. That's the first one. The second one comes when people prefer a certain school, and when they are offered spaces in others, they don't want to take that offer. Instead, they fill in the form to decline that offer and appeal to the MEC. So that takes time. And the department always focuses on those that have accepted spaces so that they're able to process them and know which schools still have spaces where children can go to. So it's not a simple and straightforward matter as we might expect it to be, because people have preferences, but we also find a situation where the system itself in some instances refers people to schools that parents say are too far away from them. So all those matters need to be resolved. But in the majority of the cases, we're able to resolve all these issues and get learners placed in schools for teaching and learning to commence as soon as the school year begins.
Yeah, we're entering the third year of living in a pandemic, and of course many of us are still trying to take stock of the real impact that COVID-19 has actually had on various lives, various aspects of life, I beg your pardon, including on teaching and learning. I mean, are you any more confident that you'll be able to at least make up whatever lost time there was, or are we past that stage?
We have not passed it as yet. You know, we had initially a 3-year recovery plan, which is going to be extended now because of the realities of COVID in 2020 and 2021 and the lessons learned thereof. But 2021 was better than 2020 because in 2020 you'll recall that when schools were closed in March, some learners only went back to school at the end of August. And that meant a huge loss in terms of teaching and learning time. But in 2021, we did not see many schools being closed and reopened. So there was some stability in that regard, except that the rotational timetabling created challenges still with the monitoring of curriculum delivery, also with the monitoring of learners coming and not coming to school, because they were taking turns coming to school in some places, 1 week in, 1 week out, in others alternating days. So that has caused chaos in the system. And unfortunately, COVID is still around, and we still need to comply with the protocols that are in place. So in that regard, we are going to continue. but we hope that the situation will stabilize somewhat for us to be able to make decisions that are going to improve the situation.
Yeah. Of course, another big part of the concern after every December holiday is the state of the buildings themselves, the infrastructure. And added to the complexity this time around was the torrential rains we've seen in various parts of the country. How big an issue is that as we are days away from the first lessons being taught in class?
Well, it's always a big issue because of the behavior of people in communities. People always vandalize schools, always break in to steal different items from ICT equipment to food items that's stored there and other things that they might find. We will be collecting information from provinces in that regard to say which schools have been damaged and what needs to be done there. But where there's minor damage, schooling should be able to continue. But of course, we are going to conduct a thorough assessment in terms of the damage that would have been caused by the torrential rains. But so far, we haven't received any reports to indicate that schooling is not going to take place in those parts because some of the schools, the damage is not that big that it can prevent learning and teaching from taking place. So for now, the system is ready. We are ready to receive our learners. We have been having meetings with provinces for various things this week, and we haven't received any reports that could concern us in terms of the return of learners back to school. Remember also that with the staggered calendar, we are only dealing with inland provinces, that is Free State, Gauteng, Northwest, Mhlanga, and Limpopo, who are opening on the 12th. And then the other provinces, especially in those places where there were heavy rains like KZN in the past few days, as you indicated there earlier in your report, those are opening on the 19th of January. So there's still time to make repairs that might be required as a direct result of any damage, whether vandalism or the rains.
Right. Speaking about looking ahead now, if the situation in the global north is anything to go by, it looks like there will be another wave of COVID-19 infections. In the event that that does happen in South Africa, how is the Basic Education Department going to plan to work around that, given the lessons that we've learned so far?
Yeah, I think for me that's a very good question because it gives me the opportunity to talk about the vaccination program that we've been running together with the Department of Health, where a large majority of our educators and personnel in the sector have already gotten their jabs. Now we are looking at the stats that the Department of Health is giving us in terms of those school-going young people between the ages of 12 to 17 and 18 and above who have already gone there. I think the number is approaching 1 million, if not more already by now. And that has happened even before we ran a coordinated campaign that could involve schools directly, which has not started, by the way. And that is something that could happen soon, but the minister will tell us exactly how it's going to work. So that is encouraging in that regard. And I'm saying this because the vaccination is one of probably the strongest weapon we have against COVID-19 that can help us to withstand any wave that can come through. You'll recall that we went through several, maybe 2 or 3 in the past 18 months or so, and we were able to keep education going even under those circumstances because of our strict adherence to COVID protocols, as well as compliance with whatever measures that are there in schools. And of course, the department has a responsibility to supply schools with COVID essentials that will enable them to make sure that everyone stays safe. So with all that done, we have learned some valuable lessons. And as I indicated much earlier, that in 2021, we did not see a lot of schools closing and opening because we have become wiser in terms of how to manage COVID-19.
Well, all the best for the year ahead. Certainly, once again, unprecedented times that we're still living under. So hopefully we're able to do so much more proactively. Mhlanga is the spokesperson for the Basic Education Department. Once again, thanks very much indeed for your time.